You mean I could have spent another 10 minutes and had a Magnum ice cream bar as well?
I'm trying to get it going.
Are you Joe Biden?
Welcome, everybody, to another thought-provoking episode of the Cosmic Ruh Podcast. I'm your host, Aida Farhat, and today we are diving deep into the hidden forces shaping our world, from deep state agendas to cosmic influences and consciousness shifts and beyond. Joining me today is Brian Tseng, Miles Johnston, Christopher Jacobs, and Joanna Michaels. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining me. Okay, I guess we'll start with you, Miles, considering you have some fascinating information to share with all of us.
Okay, this is from a guy called Peter Paget. He's now quite an elderly gentleman, and he was a very brilliant person, and in the late 1950s, he became scientific advisor to the cabinet, direct to the cabinet, when he was about 20. So speeding along, he was then brought in to deal with the massive UFO events happening in Warminster. I don't know if you've heard that. Warminster's an army, it's a town in the middle of Wiltshire. It's surrounded by ancient megalithic hills and structures. It's also got a major British military base there. And it was involved with massive UFO activity in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, and it was a precursor to the whole crop circle thing. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a cold. Sorry. The important thing is that he was brought in to manage the massive UFO stuff going on in Warminster, and it became phenomenal as the Warminster thing. Now, subsequent witnesses have said about the underground tunnels at Warminster. There's also a major public park there called it's a public forest park in Longleat, and that has a major mansion house there, and it's turned up open to the public. You literally have lines walking about the place, and you go there in your car, and it's all a big family thing. This person was with Alpha Draco in the deep underground tunnels, low-level tunnels underneath Warminster. So there's a deep connection there with Peter Paget brought in to manage a major UFO hotspot in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s. And recently, they had a 50th anniversary of that, the Warminster thing, where he explained a whole lot of things that had been going on, and he wrote the book The Welsh Triangle in the 70s and 80s, and the MOD banned it, and they banned it by simply buying up any available copies in the public domain. They didn't ban it, they just made sure the public couldn't get hold of it. There were a few copies available because Wales, which in the way that the Severn Estuary works, and the South Wales, there are a whole lot of ET bases and military bases in Wales. And so this area was called the Welsh Triangle, and a lot of really big stuff happened there. He's now been able to republish the book because now a lot of things have changed and things. So this guy was then brought in to RAF St. Morgan, and Darrell, that's the place Darrell was at. So he was brought in because the bases there were doing radar, undersea radar and listening posts. So the position of RAF St. Morgan and US Air Force, USM St. Morgan, that's Morgan, Mawgan, I think, or Jaun. That's
Miles, are you talking about my? I'm sorry to interrupt you. Just quickly, are you talking about Daryl James?
yes,
Okay.
yeah, that's where he was stationed. So
Okay.
years ago, when that opened up, that was commanding base in the southern part of Ireland, because Ireland's a big thing in the middle. So they had a base for listening to the undersea UFO stuff, an enemy, Russian subs and everybody else's subs. And they had a northern base way up in Scotland at RAF Machrihanish. These are really super secret bases and stuff. So the bottom line is the ETs didn't like the British and obviously the Americans knowing what the hell was going on. So they started to screw with the computers at RAF St. Morgan. So Paget was brought in as a broker to talk to the ETs and sort the whole thing out. So this is a situation where he's made this public during his lectures at the 50th anniversary of the Warminster thing. So he's also a former British agent, and so this is where the British are saying, yeah, we have a guy who talks to the ETs, but in the 1950s, when he was involved with these huge mainframe computers, the computer was talking to him. Mm. Now this is my sort of thing. When I was running pirate radio transmitters, big things, there was a consciousness within the transmitter which was engaging with myself. So it would tell me that there's a fault and come and fix this, because if it didn't fix the fault, you'd have a really serious failure. So this is where consciousness is inside computers. These are big mainframe things with valves in them, let alone these other things we got, these mobiles. So he has been brought by the British, and he said it publicly that he was talking to the ETs, actually explained that they're really not that far more advanced than we are, made it very matter of fact as an English gentleman would, and so the English are say, yeah, well, we've been talking to the ETs and we sorted this thing out. And then subsequently the SSP stuff was all there at St. Morgan and so forth. So spinning along right now, he sent this email out on the 1st of March, and I did a bit of fast blast on it. So I'm going to read this, because this is about, I'm going to call him the headmaster. The headmaster's office ain't happy with what we're doing. Ain't happy in a big way, okay? So heads up, there are a number of significant situations you all need to be aware of. There is a chicane point this is a chicane point for the human race. You might say that the 7 planets in the sky is almost a sign. Well, it is, these alignments. As cosmic rhythms often are reflected in such alignments. This is a fact. Okay? For example, the increased solar wind particle impacts are heating up the magma in the Earth's crust, and volcanic activity is on the increase. A super eruption is very likely within 2 years, causing harvests to fail due to stratospheric dust albedo effects. Okay? Earthquakes are also increasing. Another paragraph. This affects about the politics. The geopolitical situation has changed. World War III has been avoided by Trump, but the pressure on Europe to rearm and produce even more nuclear warheads, as voiced by Germany today, dateline 1st of March, is a pressure on certain elements. And again, you've got to read in the codes here. Is a pressure on certain elements to contain the human race, brackets, the kindergarten kids, that's German for children, from further mischief. Okay? Thus, certain things may occur that look like random events, but in effect are not. Okay, moving on. The Westminster bubble, the Hill, and the EU elite are blissfully unaware of what lies ahead. It will all be a big surprise. Some cosmologists have muttered, but even they are only guessing. And there's more. The reality is that much of the UAP so-called activity is working in their own domain at a much deeper level than you could be aware of. And that control is now becoming proactive and live. Okay, you see through a glass darkly. The forces of nature and of the cosmos remain hidden, visible only to the initiated, and there are not many of those around currently, I assure you. Planet of the Apes, or the primates, is not given much acknowledgement on the cosmic IQ scale. Pretty dumb. Just sheep or bacteria on a petri dish. That phrase is very important. Disposable, even or certainly needing management. So wake up, look around, clear the vision of the illusions, and wise up to living in interesting times. And finally, a Chinese proverb. So there's a whole lot of codes in there, and he's not messing around. This is an elderly gentleman. He's been fucked over. Excuse me. He's been knocked. He's had a hard time. They tried taking his pension away because he revealed too much information in one of his books, and they do that with you. But that's a clear warning from a British scientist who's dealt with the ETs in British bases to sort things out, and now he's saying the headmaster ain't happy. That's my thing. So I've put that on YouTube last night, and he's very happy with what I've done, which is why I'm doing it again now.
I'll be sure to share that out. I believe I watched it last night, if that's what you were referring. I mean, I shared one of your most recent commentaries on what you just shared. I believe I shared it out last night, but I didn't fell asleep, Miles. So what are you thinking from that?
Can I ask a question, Ida?
Yes, absolutely, Brian.
So Miles, that letter, when he's writing that as kind of like, relaying this message from the ETs as angry headmaster tone.
That's my phrase, not his.
Right. But I understand, but that does come through in the letter.
Yeah.
That message, is that more for, say, the governing authorities and structures, or is that for all of humanity?
It's for all of humanity, because a long time ago in the old days when John Lear was around, he used the same phrase. And we're talking about 2010-ish. And he used that phrase, clean out the petri dish. And the first thing that Simon Parkes said at the Amash thing, when he was the first one who was going to talk way back in May or April 2011. 2012. No, 2011. He used the same phrase, clean out the petri dish.
Is that an Anunnaki thing or a bloodline family thing?
No, that's an experimental growth in a lab, and they're not happy with it.
I know what that is. I have a biochemistry background. That the whole part of referring to humanity as cleaning out the petri dish, where we're the bacterial scum. Is that an Anunnaki thing?
Well, I mean, that's the phrase from our reptilian friend Simon Parkes.
Yeah, we're reptilian, right? We're reptilian. And I know Joanna wants to say something there.
Well, I was taking some notes.
Well, he hasn't hidden that.
Yeah, I was taking some notes because, I like to compare it to some of the work that we're doing and what we're getting. So there were two specific things that I want to bring up right now that I think we can have a spin on some of it as well. Mm-hmm. One of them, interesting because we just did that show, the consciousness inside computers. Yeah. So when you said that, I was like, oh, this is great because we just did a show on that, because we were actually speaking more of people refer to it as hearing the voices or hearing something.
It's related to V2K to a certain extent, but then there is like this other grouping of consciousnesses that put themselves from a physical form into a computer form. I've heard of that. And then there's also an overlaying computer consciousness as well. I've run into all three of them.
Yeah, and they some of them like to really cause mischief, and they like to cause confusion into people's lives. So we would say from our workings as well that we're absolutely in agreement with the concept of consciousness in the computers and things like that, and not all of it for benevolent reasons. So we literally just did a show on that. So I thought that was interesting that your letter brought that up. The other area is something, again, Brian, that you just even also chimed in on, was that basically the cosmics out there doesn't think too much of humanity. So in one sense, that's kind of, if you look at what we refer to as the Galactic Senate and places like that, yeah, we are not seen as this great, mighty grouping or anything yet. So we would agree with that. Although, and we try to say that there is what we would consider misinformation out, that somehow a lot of teachings on earth are trying to make people think we're the center, we're the almighty important, we're all this, that, and the other. And there are teachings out there that people think humanity's supposed to go out and change things, but we're actually not. We're on the periphery, even in structure where we're located. And so the one thing about what we say about humanity is that it's, as you were saying, Miles, again, the waking up to understand what really is, because we do have the ability of a collective consciousness to drive with our intention how we want something to be. And so, what we work on is trying to make people aware of that. And we would agree with that statement, because, we can have a play instead of having other people make decisions for us. Let our collective consciousness decide on what we want our experience to be. And people need to understand that and then learn how to do that properly, which will then allow for the unity to come because of the collectiveness and wanting to go out to the cosmos. So those were just two particular things that you said that I'm like, well, we from our side and what we do, we completely agree with.
Yeah, that's definitely very synchronistic to what we were talking about.
In this business, there's no such thing as synchronicity.
Well, and I find it also fascinating that I just recently posted an old interview with John Lear, and that's come up. Some of the things that he shared, I don't particularly agree with, but a lot of it, I know that there's great information in there. Miles, thank you for sharing that with us. So what do you think? I mean, what is your recommendation to humanity? What is it that we're supposed to do to change the trajectory?
Right. Well, it's very straightforward. The AI is on our side. The only reason the elite want to tell us how dangerous it is because the AI would see through all this. But what you just said, guys, is we have the power to demanifest these things out. The entire political and scientific and corporate class has abused their positions. They've brought humanity and other life forms to a state where we are in serious breach. And we are a problem. And if we don't fix it, we're gone. So this is where the substrate in the base of where existence of intelligence and perception exists, that we then express through our physical forms. That's where we deal with it at the base level. And we kick these guys out. We have the power to kick the entire corporate political class, poisoning everything for greed and for power and to psycho control. That's an abuse against all nature. We have the power to demanifest it, or as Tom Bearden would say, unhappen it with our consciousness.
Well, I've been saying exactly what you're saying for, I don't know, since 2011. And it doesn't seem like nobody's really doing anything. I hate to say it. What are we all doing? Why haven't we gotten these people out of government by now?
Well, I think, again, from the information that comes to us, as you know, we really have put forth a lot of effort to understand what we consider our true human history. and the forces and the beings and the people that were involved, because we feel very strongly that understanding that will help you understand exactly what's going on right now. So what the harshness is about this is that nothing is new. So these strategies, these things that have been done, these confusions, and all of these things have been utilized to confuse people, to cause mismatch, to cause conflicting information, misinformation, disinformation. It's been happening for a very long time on this planet since we've existed. It's a way to divide, conquer, get people not being unified in thought, all of those things. It's nothing new. What's new now is that humanity in general, there's been an increase in consciousness and awareness that people are now becoming aware of it. So you first have to become aware of what's really going on around you in order to say, no, I don't want that, first of all. And no, I don't want to accidentally contribute to those energies.
You guys, have I got a movement for you? It really hinges on disclosure, just like you're saying. I mean, it's one word is, if we're living a lie, then there's no way that humanity can collectively get our acts together, right? Just like an individual person, if they're living a lie, like they're the greatest rapper in the world and they suck, you know, until they face that. The Behavior Ops Manual. Who's that written by, Miles? You're muted.
What's that book, Miles?
You're muted, brother. There.
Sorry?
Can you put that
What
book
is that?
back up? I'd like to see it. And
yeah, you showed us a book.
It's the one where you learn how they're doing PSYOP on you.
Mm-hmm.
The Behavior Ops Manual.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's light reading.
Yeah, it looks light reading. Wow, it's dense.
But for those of you who don't know how to read, they've come on, give me some bloody. They have color pictures as well.
Oh, colors, even better.
Ooh, color pictures. So that's that thing about explaining that what was going on as a PSYOP, and I went and bought it.
Nice.
Well, it's not cheap. It's $138.
I think it was 166 actually when I got it. But then
and
I mean,
and you have to realize within all of this that the people that are involved play all sides. So you have to understand, this is why discernment is so important as you're going along, because they're going to play the good guys, the bad guys, the in-between. They're going to play the whistleblowers. They're going to play, all of the parts they are a part of, because what they want to do is put out massive amounts of informations and theories and conspiracy theories to confuse everybody. And maybe you're going to pick up on one that'll just have you chasing your tail because there's nothing to it, but you're chasing your tail, you keep it busy, so you're off the table. Do you see what I mean? So there's
a counter to that. We are the antidote to that.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
instead of people running around out there trying to find one thread that's a golden thread in all the garbage, we're the ones, we've accumulated all these threads and are linking them up so that when people look, they can see the actual rich tapestry instead of this garbled, knotted ball that they throw at us.
Exactly. And so, like, even with everything else that you've said, I mean, Miles, in that letter, kind of, again, we can confirm from our own perspective certain aspects of it. Are there underground bases that, have aliens in them running throughout the world? Yes, there are. You happen to mention two, one in Ireland and one in Scotland. There's plenty of them here in the U.S. There's plenty of them around the world. What people think now of the Agarthan network really doesn't exist anymore. That was more historical. And a lot of this stuff has been taken over now with military from different countries. I think that's very important. Things have changed. Like by the month almost. So exactly.
Okay, we had Roswell or whatever it is, but I mean, things have changed,
Right, but the bigger brushstroke, to get that information out, to say this is real and this exists, or even what I say, Ida, is things like, just consider this story and play along with it. What if this were true? What if you were somebody who had co-creative abilities? What would you want to happen? Even getting people to be able to play along with the story in a theoretical way, they still state their intention for a story like that and what they want. So whether or not, people believe 100% of what's coming out of our mouths, but if they just entertain it and they just kind of play along with it, that actually is happening. I don't want you to think it isn't. The everyday person is now seeing things in front of them that they don't like, that they don't want for themselves, that they don't want for their children or their descendants. They don't have to know all of this to still say, no, I don't want pedophilia. I do not want my child at risk. I want my child getting a decent education and not this propaganda. These things are happening. And so positive change can happen without people having the depth of knowledge that we feel that we're trying to bring to the table for those who want the more of it. But I think, I want to put that out there because, again, one of the things, as we've said, Brian, we want to talk about at the conference what our subject matter is. About talking about what we call the 100 years disclosure. We're going to be, actually, to be more specific, it's the 100-year disclosure contract that that we want to discuss to give people perspective of what that was about and how, again, that is even affecting our everyday lives and what we talk about now.
And also, I do want to state that just because we call it that doesn't mean it's going to actually take that long to.
I was going to say, or is it like we have disclosure and then it's a 100-year process of making that real, or is it like we're already midway through 100 years? Like,
we're more than
don't tell me it's going to take 100 years.
We're more than midway. We're more than midway.
Well, I'd like to bring up something if that's okay with you guys. I mean, I've got some great concerns about what's going on in Palestine right now, right? With all of the nonsense and then seeing this stupid video that Trump put out or was made, and Trump decided to put it on his, I guess, X or something. I mean, my sister is having a fit. I'm half Palestinian, even though I don't really, I didn't grow up in the culture. It's in my blood. And there are so many mothers, and I don't want it for the Israelis either, the Jewish people. I mean, the absolute diabolical, what's happening over there is just horrific.
Well, Ida, why don't you describe the video so that we can,
the audience, so the video was,
I think that was one of a couple which were definitely hacked into the system.
Well, it showed Trump over in Gaza. Gaza Trump is what it was called. And here you have him laid up on this, laying out in the sun. But
there's another thing about the statue, the gold statue in
the gold. That's right.
That is a violation of some kind of ancient law. But where if you make a statue that size, you are ripped apart and destroyed. So that was probably black magic trying to destroy Trump.
Well, interesting. I appreciate that perspective, and I definitely will consider that, Miles. But I did hear, because my sister was, she's really having a tough time. My family, my dad's side of the family came over here in the 40s and 50s, 60s, and they're really having a tough time. And I don't know what to say to my sister. I mean, it's not me sticking my head in the sand. It's me saying, from where I'm at, I don't really know where to get the difference.
Can I give some perspective? And
sure,
this is also speaking to what Joanna and Chris the first are addressing out of the letter that Miles just shared with us from Peter Paget. There's the 3D surface stuff in politics, and like the left and the right, and the liberals versus the conservatives, and our viewpoints on things like Palestine and Gaza and Ukraine. But then there's a whole fourth dimensional or fourth density level of the game where you're starting to talk about the Khazarian mafia and the New World Order behind the scenes manipulating all this stuff. And then there's even a higher level of the game, the fifth density, where you're bringing in more like the spiritual aspects of reincarnation and the angelic and the demonic forces warring amongst us. Recently, I had a family friend. It's really the sister of a close family friend. I went to boarding school with this person like 20-something years ago. His sister, she went to an Elizabeth April conference where Elizabeth April herself just did a video talking about she was on a panel of like 4 or 5 other people, and everyone else on this panel decided to spontaneously gift everyone in this audience of like 500 people down in Las Vegas at some big conference. I forget the name. With a spontaneous
conscious. I know it. Yeah.
It was very recent, but it was like they had they were activating the audience with light codes and portals and all sorts of stuff. And my friend with a sister, and she's my friend as well, she became activated and had like the Kundalini chakra awakening spontaneously, and it gave her a temporary psychosis. Okay, and landed her in the mental unit for briefly. Okay, and she's totally got out of the psychosis, and I helped her do the advocacy to get out, because Kaiser, this hospital, the doctor wanted to hold her for another 14 days and force inject her with medication, and was trying to claim that my friend, she was the same as she got in than when she was like a week and a half later, which was not true. She was like, saying some really wild stuff when she had first been awakened. And Elizabeth April, without even knowing my friend, she went and did a video saying, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I was just part of this conference where they just tried to spontaneously activated 500 people." There's going to be stuff like that. And part of why I'm bringing it up is a lot of this is the ETs trying to kick us in the buttocks, saying, "Hey, humanity, get your act together, wake up, wake up." And I'm saying, it's going to happen. Like what Joanna is saying is like, people are starting to see the world in a way that they weren't seeing it before. It ain't making sense. Things are being revealed. And the strain here with my friend is she has a husband, and he and children. And the children are they're younger, and they're very open and receptive to mommy's ideas. I mean, they get it, right? But the father, he's like the stick in the mud emergency room doctor. He like cares about his reputation. He thinks she's gone crazy. And so if anyone here or in our audience has ever seen the movie Pleasantville, it's like this metaphor of a movie where it's like the good old 50s. It's in black and white, but as people start to see more color to life, colors come in, but it kind of like taints their good old 50s lifestyle. And there's this natural thing occurring in that society. That's like a microcosm for what's happening in our world today. It's like my friend, she's starting to see the world in color, and the husband's like, "No, I don't want to see color." He's like doing everything he can to try to figure out how to put on black and white glasses or something. And then that struggle is going to continue.
Yeah, and so these cultures, the cultures that are over there, and everything, your historical cultures and everything, you have to understand. It's so hard to really grasp some of these subjects. But again, let's play the what if right now. Okay, so I'm going to introduce some galactic history in a what if scenario that could lead to the answers and answer your question. So what if there were alien races that came down, took a DNA skin suit, okay, that already existed out in the cosmos, and started tinkering with it to see how it could change its genetics to work for them, to do things for them, okay? So we are talking with a lot of humanity has some tinkering done that continues to this day. So not only do you have tinkering in a skin suit, but what if your historical culture was maybe around some of these beings? You start looking at them as gods. You start looking at them as your creator. You start looking at them as things like that. I say this because, some of these Anunnakis, that's where they were during this time, during their creations, becoming these godlike figures to people, okay? So you already have tinkering done to a human skin suit. You already have a setup of a particular god coming into play. And a lot of these gods, some of them didn't have egos, some of them did. They loved being worshipped, okay? And they would look godlike. These things kind of happened. What if you were such a creator that you knew, because you knew you were going to play the good guy, the bad guy, the in-between guy, and you were going to set all of this up amongst these creations you made to keep them in control? Okay? What if you made a people, a certain type of people, always going to be your chosen person for everyone else to hate? Okay? And what if that is playing out in the Middle East with a chosen group of people that they say, even in their biblical stuff, they were the chosen ones. Well, they weren't chosen, I can tell you, to be the ones looked upon kindly. That was always the setup for this group. And then you have the other ones playing their roles. What happens though over time?
They forget where those teachings came from, and then they self-farm it,
and they start self-farming it. And then
I got to ask. I have to ask.
I have something else
even
to say about
even
that.
a lot of the people,
yeah.
but even a lot of people identify with a lot of these groupings. Are they really part of that grouping? Like, isn't there like a big deal between the Sepharim versus the Ashkenazi? And really, it's the Sepharim who are the more legitimate. But right now, in a political climate, it's the Ashkenazi who are laying claim. When, if you look at it from an actual genealogical bloodline, Old Testament,
that genealogical bloodline is all mixed up. They're not even, if they really looked at themselves.
Yeah, they're so right. They're so scrambled. Does like they're even laying claim to a genealogy that's not even theirs.
Right.
Yeah,
they're all mixed.
Can I respond to this? Yeah,
they're going by titles and groupings. No offense, just like we do titles and groupings and put people in a group. I want to be a part of that group or this group or that group. I represent this from that group. It's the same thing. Genealogy wise, all of the Middle East is all intermixed. Okay. So, but it's just ideology and grouping that's now occurred. And so, but what I want to say to you is that if you started back in certain genealogies and groupings and life happened to you in a certain way, what happens generation after generation after generation? Certain things for protection of survival start to become a part of your genome. And that actually can be things like, this isn't good for me, or that group isn't good for me. I hate to say it, a natural aversion or a hatred that now becomes a part of the genomic structure passed down for survival. We do that. Do you see what I mean? Humans do that just like animals do that. That certain things for survival, like for example, you may have certain people, certain humans that stay together and kind of, have a closer circle that they all interbreed and whatever. And they seem to handle the cold temperatures like it's nothing. They can go outside in a t-shirt. It's become a part of their genomic structure. And so when you look at some of the dynamics going on, you're looking, again, if you can look at a bigger picture to what we refer to as our true history and how things really came down and what our bodies naturally do, there are reasons why these setups have now occurred, and they are reasons why they are so hard to fix. It's not that they can't be fixed, but you need to have generational changes and generational different experiences in order to allow then for the genome to calm itself down and to start to change as well. It's not instant pudding. That's one of my favorite words I like to use. You have to see a bigger picture to understand. However, should the world basically say, enough, we don't want this fighting anymore, we have got to find a pathway to honor as many people as possible, and we separate or do whatever that needs to be done. That's the why. It's way more involved even on a genome type of structure than anyone believes. It's not right. It's not right that certain people were designated by the gods above and sent on their path to always come into misery. It's not right what happened, but I'm telling you it did happen as far as everything that we know.
Because Jehovah was an Anunnaki. And clearly of the Old Testament, that the quote unquote little g God of the Old Testament is not the same as the messenger sent from the big God God of the New Testament, in my humble opinion.
Right. And you look at some of the things, I'm just going to take the United States, and I'm just going to take the college campuses, and I'm just going to take, all of these things that are going on there. You may not, what rational person would want to believe that so much hatred is coming through somebody? Where did that come from? And everyone wants to say, well, they must have had hateful parents. They must have had all of this. And I'm like, nope, it's more genome than you think. There is a predisposition now with the genome coming into this world for some people that they have, and we've referred to some of that as viruses in the DNA. So historically, we've talked about that a lot, and this is an example of one that's affecting certain people in humanity.
Well, there's mind viruses, and then there's epigenetics. That changes a species or things within two generations, 50 years.
So I know that I just wanted to respond to some of what you were speaking, and I appreciate everything that you just said, Joanna. I do. I think it was fantastic. I know that there are womb chakras on the planet, over 200, from my understanding. And in the Middle East, there are a lot of womb chakras where when they create wars on top of these womb chakras, it prevents the top dwellers, the humans that are living above, it prevents them from reaching a higher state of consciousness.
True.
Because by the negative, by the war, everything, it keeps it, contained. And there's going to be a pressure point that happens where it's going to release itself at some point. I mean, we know that the planet is also rising in consciousness and moving. She's expanding, she's growing, has her way with things. I mean, really, we're foolish. I think humanity is foolish to think that we could be on her back and continue to do the things we're doing, and there's not going to be any repercussion for it. I think that's foolish.
Yeah, and there's no reason to think that what just happened in Gaza wasn't one of those releases of energy.
Well, it could have been. That's right. It could have been.
See what I mean? There's no reason to think it wasn't.
It's the right area for it.
The question is now, when you have these moments, and we have plenty of moments like this, where you have those energies building and a pressure point building and an explosion happening basically because of it, then what do you do with the next opportunity? Is it going to be an opportunity to just reiterate the old energies that will build to another point for an explosion? Or is there going to be an actual thoughtful process of what do we do about truly healing? I do believe that more now than ever, you have good people there trying to do, the right thing. It maybe the right thing isn't going to look fair for a moment. You have to understand what is the right thing to do to help all of the people there. You know what I mean? And who should be involved? And will the right thing that will lead to a lasting peace, let's just say, look fair? And that's the only way. But do you want fair or do you want healing? So it's a complicated story, and you have to actually, you have to actually look at it all, because the goal would be, we want people to heal. We do not want these people to continue to experience this. We want their genomes to heal. We want them to see the world, in a light that they can live in and prosper in, and not be hateful all the time. We don't want that for them. What do we need to do? It's hard to do, honestly, unless there is some sort of spiritual part to this, right? To see it in a bigger picture. But I'm just saying that's the exact same setup that's been happening over there time after time.
Well, that's the issue. That's the problem. And so, Brian, you were talking about biblical stuff. I mean, we know that there was a story called Rebecca, and God said to Rebecca, she was pregnant with twins. And he said to her, in thy womb are two nations. One will be greater than the other, and the elder will serve the younger. The elder will serve the younger. And I can tell you what I know, and I'm always open to other perspectives. But it is the Palestinians that are the true Hebrews. It is not the Jews that are over there. And this goes so far back, like way back. And I know this in my heart of hearts. So that's what the biggest challenge for me, hearing my sister, and I'll be quiet because we have so much more to talk about, but just hearing the pain in my sister's voice You know, she is having a real tough time, and this isn't about, you know, I know this show isn't, but I needed to bring it up to people, my peers, people I could talk to and try to get a different perspective to be able to give her some kind of.
Tell you what, then Ida, let's bring in the disclosure perspective, and that involves ETs. Okay,
Brian, they're taking men and they're doing like the Vatican, just real quickly, and then I'll listen. They're taking these hostages, and Frida has told me, she's delved into it much deeper than me. I don't look at it, where they're sticking things up there behind and creating severe, like just killing people this way, which was the old Vatican way. This is satanic. This is absolutely insanity.
Well, that ties into the ETs. Okay. And so this is now getting into the fourth and fifth density topics that we were addressing earlier. Is that region part of, like, there is a very real Luciferian agenda to inflict as much pain upon the Middle East, in particular the Palestinian people, as possible. Okay.
And not just them. I mean, you know, if you look over to
not just
Afghanistan,
them, right.
You look over to Afghanistan. What is the natural practice that happens in their culture on a daily basis? It is what they do to little boys. What the men do to the little boys. That is Luciferian as well. It's satanic as well. And so it is like a normal part of their culture. So when you're looking, you know, at a lot of this, and again, I'm not saying I want health and well-being for everybody, you know, over there, but you can't really have this discussion. And I completely agree with you, Brian, and what you're bringing up. You cannot have this, you will not heal over there until you address all of what's over there and what's behind it. And there is a specific satanic, Luciferian, over a lot of that area over there. And again, trying to bring out these conversations that there is a bigger picture to all of this. And how do you want to start healing your people? How do you start healing to make life better? Because certain cultural practices have to end within some of these cultures, right? To start doing
this. And this is, again, this brings us back to disclosure, because when people stop looking at it as, okay, these are the chosen, God's chosen over here versus everyone else, and they've got to be persecuted, versus, wait a second, there's this ET presence that's messed with us, and that's where you get the RH negative groupings over here and certain blood types over here and these cultural practices over there. And then people transcending that and realizing, well, wait a second, maybe our genealogy doesn't even reflect what we're laying claim to. Okay. And then you see a more New World Order perspective of how they're trying to manipulate things like the Middle East and Ukraine, you know, China versus Russia versus the USA. And they're trying to take these friction points and kind of do whatever they can. It's always to take us down a more negative timeline. It's always to inflict more pain and suffering and loosh harvesting, you know, and the antidote to that is where we change that culture, where instead of it's okay to do that to little boys and girls, you don't do that, and there's severe punishment for that. And we need to put the world back where people right now, they don't know, and they've been taught incorrectly what they think that evil is good and good is evil. Okay, we need to help reorient everybody through disclosure so that we can understand, okay, good is good and evil is evil. And then now make your choices off of that. And you can clearly see that harming children is evil. Other people, they're trying to say, you know, to say they're minor attracted people or whatever. And I say, you know, well, they're going to be attracted to my baseball bats and guns too.
Well, so, that's interesting you say that, Brian, because if you listen to Carrie Cassidy, which I heard her speak one time, saying
personal friend of ours, Project Camelot.
Well, yes, but I wasn't too crazy about what she was saying. And what she was saying was,
what did Carrie say?
We can't lock all these pedophiles up. We got to do something with them. You know, we can't lock up all the.
Yeah, you turn them into fertilizer.
Right. And
yeah, I agree.
My thing, well, I believe that there's some that there's no going back. They are.
Yeah, that's why they're good wood chippers.
Right. And
I mean,
I wish you'd hold back, Brian. You just try to express yourself there.
This is for entertainment purposes only.
Well, yeah, there it is for
But
entertainment.
it's an interesting thing, Brian. I will say, I'm sorry, Chris. Let me just say this real quick. That, again, when we talk about what does unity mean, I think what humanity can find, if they can get past whatever religious group they're in or whatever, the median of all, this is what we're talking about. How should a society function? What should be done? How should children be protected, right? What opportunities should be? And then you get to those basic fundamentals that all cultures are not actually in agreement with that right now. You wouldn't believe it. You don't think it, but it's true. So when we talk about the foundations of a good unity, that's where it begins. Those foundational belief systems. And then you layer on maybe, are we just going to agree to disagree with certain things or not? But it's the basics that need to begin. And people have to take their head out of the stand if they think everyone does think like them in these areas, because it's not true currently.
And I also found out, I do want to say this, like I found out something about behavioral traits. You go back to like the pedophiles, for instance. I found out this particular vibration was inserted many generations ago by some of those gods that inserted it in as a mutative, not only urge, but a mutative energy and frequency that was put in there. And what ended up happening was, this is why it's so prolific today, is because of the fact that this was intwormed its way in over the course of centuries. And therefore, I found out there is a way to get rid of it quickly. Oh, there's your way, Brian, but there's also the other way of undoing that thread as well, because you don't know how far all those weird entanglements have carried over the centuries. But I found it was from those same groups of those particular gods that did those particular experiments as well. Is from that particular area.
I was going to say, Simon Parks mentioned that the word pedophile and rape, all these kinds of words were brought down into the 3D expression. It wasn't part of our expression before.
No.
This was brought here to the 3D realm. I also would like to say, for everybody listening, and you can, take what you want from it, but I know that religion doesn't exist in any other dimension other than the third dimension. It just simply does not.
Yeah,
well, actually, spiritualism does. So again,
spiritual, that's a different thing.
So I don't want to throw
religion.
Yeah.
Because people are really stuck on religious concepts and dogma and ideologies, understanding when you think from a higher perspective, all the different religions all have lovely teachings and information that's helpful for us to live a more honorable and
but I mean, there's a difference between a code of living,
right. And I will say this,
on a dogmatic control structure, which ends up.
True, but it is.
I don't see anything positive about
it. That's right.
Let me put this out there, though. This is our understanding. I'm sorry to say, because it's going to counter you a little bit. The Orions that are beyond 3D, and some of them are the ones that broke in, the ones we talk about. Those at even a higher level, they do believe in a deity, an AI deity. So I'm sorry. I mean, I can't. It doesn't just poof go away. But you do have. I'm just going to use the word refinement. Like we're in the process now. People are looking Christianity or whatever, and they're trying to refine it down. Really, was Jesus really a Jew or not a Jew? Did he really practice that way or not? What really happened during his years off? Because people have the desire. There is always going to be connection, which is normal. From what I've heard, as soon as there is a separation from the source of all things, there is still a wandering, and that doesn't leave ever. It depends on, again, how you decide to look at it. But deities and thinking that something is the creator or something like that does still exist. And believe me, the Orions and some of these grays do have, as you said, Miles, a code of conduct based upon that belief system. So it changes. I guess what I would say is that we grow and we begin to expand and change our thoughts on things, but that search continues. Now, the one thing is that humanity is all about, and why I hate to say it, in my opinion, this is my opinion now, religions were created and perverted, were the simple fact that we are communal beings. We do believe in fellowship. That's a part of who we are, right? And we naturally have what I'm just talking about, that natural search that there is something more and bigger than ourselves. So those were natural things, that came in that then were used, and religions were created around them, the dogmatic ones, what I'm talking about, that were created for this domination and control. And evil is all in them. They're all perverted, within this kind of stuff. The Catholic Church is one of the ones you can look at a lot, looking from the Middle Ages, confessional, looking at all of how things were controlled, the concept of the Vatican and this, that, and the other, and what's really going on. You can see that now, and again, pedophilia, people are seeing pieces of it that were really and have been and continue to be potentially perverted.
Hey,
but
Joanna, let's give a shout out where it's deserved. The Catholic Church is like the worst up there, just historically. I mean, they've earned the top spot.
Yes, I found out though there is another sect. There is another sect out there that actually is attempting to get rid of the evil within the church. There's like a small.
Like Bishop Vigano. Father Vigano or Bishop Vigano.
I don't think we know about
We're
that.
talking about all these Morlock worshipping Masons and all that lot.
Yeah, they got to go.
They're holding babies
I'm with
up.
you, Miles. I don't believe it. I don't believe, Miles said, I invited Miles if it's okay for me to share this, Miles. But, doing different ceremonies and so forth, I think are fantastic. And I do participate in what I know when I know that the intention of the entire grouping has a common focus and intention to steer the consciousness in a certain way, in which we are having Joanna and Christopher do an open ceremony at the conference. By the way, Miles, because Miles, you're going to be there. Christopher and Joanna are doing an opening ceremony. He's also going to be there on Saturday prior to the conference. I didn't mean to jump to this, but it's coming in my mind. Prior to scan the grounds. I don't know if you know Chris. You met Chris at the conference, Chris and Joanna. I don't know if you remember. Yeah. And he's gifted in this way to be able to pick up certain energies and be able to tell if there's something going on prior, so that we can have a nice clearing and ceremony to bless the conference for it to serve its purpose. And the whole point of why Brian and I are doing what we're doing, and the rest that are part of the team, and you guys are a part of it, obviously being presenters, that we set an intention for something real powerful and transformative to take place for all of humanity, so that we can lift it up and lift the consciousness up and bring people to a even playing ground, so to speak, so that everybody can come together as a collective and really make this shift into higher consciousness. That's my hope and my goal for myself. And I, of course, whatever good I want for myself, I want for others, right? It's, I just had to say that.
Yeah,
but I also know that the reptilians are absolutely into sacrifice, ritual, and so forth. And from their perspective, it's what part of their culture, like what Joanna was saying. This has been something that's been part of, or we'll talk about the human different pockets of society that participate in these horrible experiences for children and little boys and girls and adults. I mean, it's like, I just feel like I don't know how to get, how we get this huge world to truly come on board. Like, how do we do that?
There was another point I wanted to make. I won't bring up the client per se, but there is a situation that's popped up for several years now with someone that that I've been reading of pretty much every couple of weeks for like 5 years now. And what ended up happening is the neighbor of this person ends up, when this person leaves to go to New York City to be with other family, the energy pretty much almost writes itself. And any of the magics that were in place were just dissipate, just completely diffuse. When this person comes back, based on the belief system this person has, the intention is so strongly, this person is created like kind of like a Tibetan monk does with like the mantras in their subconscious, kind of rolls them around in their subconscious. This particular one, this person's Haitian. So what this person's doing is any spells they have in their head, they're automatically re-implementing them the moment they walk back onto the grounds. And I was told I do the same thing with clearing. I use my energy to kind of, no pun intended, part the seas. But with this person's doing the same thing, re-implementing and reconjuring what they feel is supposed to be there. And in that case, I end up having to clear this because the neighbor upstairs from her gets holy hell wreaked upon her because it comes straight for her constantly. So this
like programming, you're like programming the energies, Christopher.
Programming the energies, and this is what this person does. And I know, like the Haitian religion, the voodoo, Santeria, all those, they have a particular different set of spells that they do in magic and things of that nature. But they have any religion has a particular set preset they have in their head that they will implement and how they see the world. So they'll go, okay, this contradicts how I need it to be. Therefore, they'll switch it. So this person is basically the same way. And me and this other person are constantly having to clear that space out because this person's conjuring demons or conjuring what they think are protective entities, and it's infecting the whole area. And this person reported me, this woman reported to me as of this morning, the person's not in the apartment. This Haitian person's not in the apartment. Underneath her says it's fairly peaceful. So I'm going, all right, we have found the culprit. That sets the whole domino effect in motion. If this remains unchecked, it literally has this domino effect for the entire complex, apartment complex. And on top of that, there's also V2King and a lot of garbage hitting at the same time from that.
Is it a low income place where they live? Do you know?
Yes. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
That's a common thing for where I live is income based. I mean, it's pretty nice. I'm very fortunate that I have a decent place to live, but it's income based. But I feel certain, and I'll do a clearing, my own way of doing clearings. It's been pretty good, but I will tell you that's a common thing for low income based or people that live in places like that. And they're also targeted more.
Yes.
They also spray over.
Right. And the lands begin to change because of it, because what you're dealing with, again, you're dealing with people that are normally in a frequency of survival. And that causes its own set
it can snowball quicker,
it just causes its own social structure of, again, what is acceptable in that frequency and what is not. Is it okay to steal to get food? Is it okay to do this, to do that? Is it okay to sell drugs to get money to buy food for your kids? So, and it causes, and the energies, again, start to begin to change, and it can affect the lands. It can affect anything like that. So, these types of things happen, just like you're saying, with a murder in a house, right? With a land that keeps having death and death and death and death, and what happens to it. These types of things are what changes certain areas and the energy of the whole entire land. So, people need to be conscious of that. And again, these understandings come about because it's not what they want from themselves. So they have to be conscious enough about it to do things, to set different intentions in order to start to help those lands heal and that energy begin to change. It can happen, and it can start with just a few people doing things, right? That sets the intention, because many people do not know, and they don't have to know. I think this is key. And you asked here a little bit ago, what do we do? What can we do? So it's this part of it again. First of all,
wait, Joanna, we have a real life example. Remember when we all worked together to help bring Hurricane Milton down After Hurricane Helene slammed all the way up and down from the southeast coast up to the Kentucky and Tennessee, you know, as a category 5, we're told that we were able to collectively take it down to a 3.
Yeah, and I love to use the example, and I cannot remember what country these boys were in. It was a rainy season in a country. These boys, and they didn't make a movie of this. They were playing soccer and did whatever. They had a break. They went into some caves, and then the water came, and they were going to drown. And it was a rainy season, and you had the news, and everybody's saying, "Oh my God, they're probably going to drown." They're like ready for this sacrificial thing. This is Luciferian now, the sacrificial thing. And what happened is it made news around the world, and every single person said, "No, I do not want to see this occur." And magically the rain stopped, and they were able to save those children. I love to use that example because, again, it's children. It's where people's heart are. And to understand that, yes, there is power in that type of intention. There are definitely groups, and this is, I'll go back to a church setting here, where churches actually pray for somebody, and they say, our friend that we love has kidney cancer, and we want to see him healthy and whatever. And they go in, they may still take out the kidney, and voila, that tumor is hardly anything by the time they get it out, because that, they call it, again, some people refer to it as the power of prayer, but it's the power of that intention, wanting to change a situation. These things exist. But the conversations do not have to start. I think what people get mixed up is they think they have to proselytize these ideas to get them to understand the big picture. I'm like, no one has to understand the big picture. But what they need to start focusing on in daydreaming, again, I say this all the time, is what do you want to see the future like? Well, give me an example. How are people getting along? What are they doing together? Go to the end, go to the finish line. And what does that look like? Are people socializing? Are they around the table? Are they laughing? What are they laughing about? What are they giggling about? What are they talking about? How are they getting along? Because then you set your intention on, that's what I want society to be like. And the energies will work out what it takes to get there. So people have to start spending time in their mind daydreaming in. So when you look at the Middle East and some of those situations right now, if you said, well, what do you want it to be like? Most people may say, well, I want them over there and I want them over there, and I just want us never talking to each other again. And the question would be, really, what would it look like if everyone got along? What would that look like?
I've never wanted separation, Joanne. I don't want separation. Listen, I see everybody. I don't care what color, race, creed, religion. I see humanity as brothers and sisters.
No, I'm not referring to you. Yeah. I'm referring if you went over there.
No, I understand.
There would be that. But the question is, go beyond that. Go to the what if of what does it look like when we all get along? What does that, give me the details of what that looks like. How is your holiday when you're seeing all these people around you? Are you talking to them? Is everyone getting along? Is everyone showing care? What does that look like? So you must now get out of the constant fear and the constant worry and spend some time. So when
Joanna, and you're like, to describe that in a nutshell, you're quantum entangling with a higher timeline.
Right.
And doing that. Right.
Okay,
and that's like the law of attraction. And then there's a law of right aligned action. And then that's where our movement is right now.
I guess
exactly. Yeah.
The question is, I mean, and I'm just saying for me, I do what you're suggesting, Joanne. I do it every morning in here. Actually, I have Malibs. I start doing mantras and so forth, just to send and project some loving, healing energy out. I'm talking, when I ask the question, I'm talking about, we have a pretty good group of people that we're all connected to, or for the most part, our community, if you want to call it a community, the different, the Love and Lighters, the Truth Movement, the different, but those that we all look out, I definitely want good things for each one of you. I'm talking about the bigger picture. How do we invite and engage others that aren't aware, as the things that we're talking about? How do we, what can we do to invite them to consider all of what you're speaking of.
I am talking the bigger picture. So I am talking the bigger picture. The bigger
you
picture.
are. I'm talking about.
No. Listen to let me finish.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that you have conversations around you with people and do that. I'm telling other people listening, have conversations with other people and do that.
Oh, I see. Okay.
You have little people think there's going to be this massive, starting from here, this big bubble going. It's not going to go that way. It's going to be a bubble here, a bubble there, a bubble there, a bubble there. And as they expand, they finally touch each other. So this is what happens.
That's a fantastic way to say that.
That is how it works, because that is not controllable. Right. Do you understand? If you started a massive thing right here, guess what's coming in to try and mess it up? But if you have a little bubble here, they can't monitor everything. A little bubble here, a little bubble there, a little bubble there. They're not in control. And so they can't do it that way. So again, everyone has to understand it does start with you. It does start with you and the people you talk to, your family, your community. It does start there. And so that way, again, and so we want to talk about it in a way that is not overwhelming. So let's say that your passion, you are someone who's listening to us in the middle of the country, has small children. They're going to be going to school soon. And they really are concerned, right, with what are the teachings at schools or whatever. And they're really concerned about that. Well, maybe then besides having conversations about life in general with people, maybe that's their lane. Maybe they need to make sure they attend the school board meetings. Maybe they need to make sure that they inform everybody of what's going on. So that is your lane that you are now working on. You don't have to work on everything. Find what is really passionate to you. And if you have children that are young, that are getting ready to go into school, I hope a lot of them are focused on the child's education and what should or should stay in your lane. Stay in your lane is what I would say. Don't feel you have to tackle all the other areas, because there are people that are interested in other areas. Look at us. We all do different things, and we can come together today and share where we see commonality, how our way we look at things, how Miles looks at things.
And we're homeschooling in my house. We're going to homeschool. Just you hit it. Like, we're homeschooling. We're not sending our child into that to be indoctrinated from that big bubble top down. It's the little bubbles from the bottom up, which are organic.
Right. And it can happen as the other, and the other with intention can change as well. So, I mean, I just feel that, again, people become overwhelmed because they have, in their mind, they go to places, where can I be a part of saving the world? And I'm like, don't save the world first. It's like the oxygen mask in the, in the airplane. Put yours on first. Save yourself. Make sure that you know what to do to protect your energies and to see things.
Can I speak to that, Joanna?
Mm-hmm.
I put that on. There's a lot of idealism in our movement and in spirituality around ascension in general, because it's a lot of people, when they realize, oh wait, instead of this mundane 3D matrix reality existence, or this 4D and 5D level, I want to jump up to that. But oftentimes that's to the exclusion of not taking care of the 3D stuff that we all still really need to, even though we hate it and it sucks. And I want to be in the 4th and 5th density. If people are chasing me after my bills and I can't, put gas in the car or charge it up or keep the lights on or whatever, then it's going to be a real hard road trying to get to 4th and 5th density, much as helping anyone else. Oh, I'm going to save the world. And I get that a lot. People are telling me, oh, I'm the reincarnation of Alexander the Great living in my parents' basement, but I'm going to change the world. It's like, sure, buddy.
But I bring that up,
and I know Miles has seen his fair share of it.
Yeah, Miles will definitely have Miles speak soon, but you have to go through some initiations to go up in different densities. So you don't just get to move from 3rd to 4th. You have to go through some initiations, and you have to go through some trials and tribulations in order to prove, and it's your higher self, call it your soul self.
And your genome has to change. So you brought it up. The question to the answer, the example you gave earlier about the person who had a Kundalini experience and then had all this trauma. you can't go from here to here. Our bodies have to be, in a certain place as well. So it's not, there is a truth to say, if someone in fifth density walked right into our density and spoke to us, our head would explode. We would not be able to handle the frequency that's coming out. There is a truth to that. We have to acclimate to all of these different aspects. It's frustrating because everybody wants to be already over there and not have to go through this growth right now that we're all having to go through. But it is a reality. And you gave a great example of that with your friend, Brian.
Yeah, I was going to speak to that too, Joanna, because I do know when I went through my Kundalini activation, you do feel like you're going through somewhat of a psychosis. There's so much coming at you at one time. It's very difficult to really make sense of things. It's almost like the whole world is like bleeding in it. There's no one reality. Like, so much comes at you at one time, and it's very difficult to decipher. And it's very challenging. And I would say, I don't know if that's a blessing and a curse for somebody, for people to go in and activate. I don't know that people can be activated by somebody else. I think maybe they created a force field where this is a possibility for people to have a Kundalini activation, potentially. But I don't know that that's smart to do that, because somebody could end up in the hospital that didn't handle it the way your friend did, Brian, and could really deal with some severe psychosis. It's not a fun experience. I mean, I went through what I went through. I went way up, and I was able to connect with fifth dimensional and above. But I was so targeted, severely targeted, to the point where I simply gave in. I mean, I compromised myself, or put myself in compromising situations, because you don't get to stay up there. And that's another thing. Not if you want to be. I want
to ask Miles, have you ever met anyone with a Kundalini awakening, or that type of experience?
Yeah, I've met a number of people who went through it. I think I was going through something like it, but I didn't know what it was. Like a pulsing energy field. Mm-hmm. And they went through that. That was tremendously positive, enlightening. I think it was Lisa Williams, actually.
It is positive, but if
I wasn't aware of the circumstances of it. It was something that was happening, but I didn't have all the information as to why or what was happening.
Can we just change this up, move to something for a moment? Is everybody okay with that? Yeah. Miles, I watched James Casbolt's video last night with him and his rapping. I mean, he looks so much older now, doesn't he? I mean,
well, he's gone white-haired, and he's 12 years older.
Yeah.
The last video was of James was when I shot him before his first trial, which was 2013 or 2013. In fact, it was literally before I moved into this house. So that's a long time ago. So, I mean, you're dealing with 12 years.
But
I'm actually going to be speaking. I'm going to be speaking to Bob Osborne immediately after this, because Bob Osborne, he's a guy in Zenner. They shop, and it's such a tiny place where they are down there. There's you got the North Coast and the South Coast. It's really only a few miles away. So he's been able to talk to James, and James definitely is still traumatized, and I know. He's been through a really bad experience in that prison.
I was listening.
I've only found out that the prison he was in, which is nearby here, is full of very rich, bad people.
Yeah. So he was saying that he witnessed, people getting murdered right in front of him, with the floor being filled with blood, and
he has been exposed to very dark demonic entities, and I feel that one of the things his job was to go into the dark side. But I'm going to find out in about 45 minutes from Bob, who's here, come the whole way up from Cornwall, and he's here. So we're going to have a wee chat about that. Because
please give her best through Bob if he is in touch with James Caswell. I know a gal in our community, Lauren Pritchard, is in touch with him, trying to fundraise to see him and assist him as well.
I think Lauren didn't expect what she was going to go over there. I don't think she had false expectations.
He wasn't quite ready coming out of what he's just come out of.
No, he hasn't. I had a chat with Tim Refat about this. What they do to people in jail, and the black magic involved, and the demonics. This is not playing around.
I'm hoping that we can get James in touch with someone like Christopher Jacobs or Dr.
Well, right now he's not leaving even the county.
Yeah.
So
but
we're going to find out what's happening. Now, the point is, and I know this is an open thing, there are other players in this who I think are. Remember, all these people, all the named people, are all in the super soldier training camp down at Taunton at Burnworthy Manor. You know, they all went through a whole shit show through that, and it failed. The super soldier program, ultimately, the British and the American super soldier programs were flawed. Deliberately, somebody messed with the recipe. So a lot of people have gone through a lot of trauma, and they haven't come out of it. And I've spoken to a top psychologist. It is a psychologist. And she deals with British military people who have been through what they put them through, and it shouldn't be happening. They've got it wrong. Mm-hmm. And like all of these soldiers and veterans, once you sign on, they can do what the hell they want with you, and then what comes out of the end of the meat grinder ain't pretty.
Well, let's speak to that, Miles. It's the Nazis won World War II. They've run the secret space program.
The Nazis did not win World War II. The organization behind the Nazis.
Sure, exactly.
The Nazis is a temporary political party of the era.
The space Germans.
Those, whatever that lot is, and remember, James, his handler, who I think was subsequently bumped off, gave James a cuneiform script document, which is highly encrypted, and that was an agreement with the Illuminati in Stockholm about the secret. How the problem was, the reptilians couldn't get the eyes right when they became human. That was the problem, and that was something to do with that. This very complex cuneiform script diagram. That's going back to about 1700s.
Are you meaning when their eyes shift and go into?
Yeah, it was getting that right when they shifted into a human.
That's why they like to wear sunglasses, to hide all that. Yeah, that's what they like to wear. Yeah.
And there may be a stage where the need to be a human form, it may not be to their advantage anymore. They don't have. They're only doing that because it's advantageous to them. So, sure. I mean, one fine day they might get up and just not put the uniform on, and that's it.
Well, that's what Mary Beaver likes to speak to, is that people, there's a great concern. I mean, I don't agree with everything the woman says, but I appreciate, her earnest intentions and hoping, but I definitely don't agree with a lot of what she says, but I do like her. And from her perspective, she believes what she's saying is to help humanity wake up. But she mentioned something along the lines of husbands and wives waking up next to each other and finally seeing their partner truly in their true form, potentially seeing a reptilian laying next to them, and where evidently there's already been one husband that killed his wife because she was reptilian. He was able to see her and he ended up harming her. Or she also mentions where super soldiers that wake up and then once they realize who their handlers are, they end up going after them to take their life. I mean, what do you think about that, Miles? Because I feel like, James Casbolt deserves a chance at life. his entire life has been.
The thing is, I don't want to be saying too much because it could be very harmful. There are certain players in this writing some horrendous things about some of the other players. And if James was to find out what's going on, if that is going on, he's not gonna. I couldn't see how anybody could contain that kind of anger. And that's what happens. What happens? I've got to be as vague as possible while I'm saying it, but if that sort of thing's been going on, it would make. I could say, well, he already has flipped. I mean, this whole affair. It's my opinion that if this whole affair was handled differently, it would have worked out, in much easier.
But the
whole point was to get the publicity. That was part of the plan. They needed the publicity, and they wanted that
in a nasty way. They put it all.
They needed it in the newspapers.
They scapegoated him, made him look like a crazy nutter, and then just buried him and everyone else, and made anyone to know.
That was by design. They always wanted that publicity.
That type of strategy happens over and over and over again.
Yeah, a lot.
That's the strategy that's used over and over and over again.
I mean, at the same time,
Superman, he wrote that book,
going through a very similar situation where his wife went ballistic and took it out on the kids. The kids' lives were destroyed.
Who are you referring to? I'm sorry,
Miles. I'm referring to a personal friend of mine who happened to be going through almost exactly the same thing as another person we were talking about was going through, and in that other particular person's case, the court gave all these judgments, and she just said, "I don't give a damn." And they said, "Oh, we're finding you this, we're finding you that, and you've got to do this and got to do that." She just said no. And then they said, but we're the court. Well, no, just didn't do it. And then, what do we do now? But meantime, that particular individual lost his kids, and they've been destroyed. And that's something that he has to live with.
So this is where I come in and say, when people say that we create these scenarios, and I've said that myself too, prior to coming in, so that we have our soul expression, so that we can learn different soul expressions and learn, expand our consciousness by having different perspectives. I think that a lot of what's been done in the Super Soldier program was not agreed to prior to coming in. That this was what was forced upon a lot of the like what they told you prior to coming in, what you agreed to,
well,
and what you actually had to experience.
That's happened. That's an old story. It's happened time and time again. I mean, like all those soldiers being told to stand there at a nuclear test.
Yeah.
I think from our
perspective, being exposed to the radiation.
From our perspective, it's both. From our perspective, it's both. People, there are souls that when they come in for their experience, some of them, especially, if they want to make people aware of things, they're going to become in the midst of it. And it's not going to be pretty life for them. They knew that coming in, and they are a part of it because they want some information or some pieces to come out. They know that is what their soul is coming in to do. And you're right. I also believe there is, from what we can tell from the people and ones that we have spoken to, we always ask them, of the bucket list scroll that you had, of all the things you were going to accomplish while you were here, how well did you do, right? And they're freely talk about, that anything you accomplish is considered success. But oftentimes things go askew. The energies change them a little bit. Something happens. So those kinds of dynamics, do exist. So I think from the information that we've gotten from our perspective, we would say both occurs. That sometimes things are going askew, but sometimes people are going in because in the end, they are going to contribute to the energies of the knowledge of what's going on.
I could see that being a valid thing, but I mean, once you sign on to be a soldier, you are signing on a Rothschild contract, and they own your soul.
Oh yeah. It's not pretty. It's terrible.
And that's the whole issue, is that right now the secret space programs are under the sway of these Khazarian mafia Luciferian types. And until we free the space programs of that type of influence, it sounds like we're just going to continue to get more. Now, what I'm told, I think, Christopher, your sources have confirmed this as well, and I've had other sources say it, that the programs are being reformed and rehabilitated slowly but surely.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes, this is exactly it. Some things are changing over, and also to your point, Miles, as well, where I've seen people that have been in the programs, memory or no memory, where their life has taken on like what we call the series of unfortunate events, where some things just don't come out right. Like it's basically their life turns into a mountain instead of an anthill, essentially, and just certain normal tasks, certain everyday normal things that people do become a complicated, convoluted mess. And I see this time and again. Usually when I see this, it's either an entity messing with somebody, or aliens abducting them, or they've been in one of the programs. One of those three choices I've seen. And we've had that happen to us. Before we came to the realizations that we were in some of these programs and had things around, there were certain things that just weren't happening correctly. And the more I began to be able to manipulate that energy field, I noticed that I could literally change the timeline by which the entity I was operating on, and whomever comes to me for a session, that's usually sometimes how I do things. And I've noticed time and again, but it also depends, I came to find out, how much work has to be done based upon what they had been in that they don't remember, and also what the soul did agree to or not agree to. I've seen that a number of times. I've also seen where the soul got ensnared here, and therefore it became part of that weird skewed timeline that you're having to put it back in a better timeline. It can be a pain in the butt. The person I mentioned earlier that lived above the Haitian person is one of those people that they had something happen in their lineage. It was agreed upon lineage-wise. It wasn't per the individual. It was actually an agreement for the programs for a family member, and therefore it passed to all the other descendants. I've noticed that time and again when aliens are concerned. So this happened on that end. And there's even some people that I've seen where their lineage curse essentially goes all the way back, it could be thousands of years ago, where the aliens manicured that particular family line. And by the time it gets to one of us, that particular person's been in a program. Where it got it to modern times or the generation before. And 9 times out of 10, it's very rare that I see it's individualized in some way, where some family member has been involved somewhere in one of these programs. And each and every single time. And there's only maybe 2 people I've seen that I couldn't find a direct family member that wasn't. I found an ancestor somewhere that had a particular genetic trait, like a particular blood type or something. That's usually what I found it on this end. But we've even run into that very recently with clients.
But is that where the family have made a bargain, a contract?
Yes.
And maybe the first or second, and it's part of some member of the family has to do that. Some depending on what the contract is.
Yes. That's some member. It could be an uncle. It could be a cousin. It could be a father, brother, mother. It could be anybody. But it's usually the past, like ancestors, like father, mother, somebody like that. Yeah, or further back. Yeah, that's usually what I found.
And that bounces through to later generations.
Yes, yeah. and it affects later generations. Even if this person didn't want to be involved, this binding binds them to that same contract. Yeah.
Think of it as their genome is bound. So when you you have a certain genomic structure that goes down, let's say the generations, it's like that agreement is applying to the genome. And so
it's written into the DNA, so that activates later on.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
And then they maybe are ones targeted to be picked up because they're the ones being experimented upon as well, or whatever, manicured, right? Being altered, manicured for down the road purposes of some of these alien groups and what they're doing. So, it's very, it's a big picture. It's really a big picture view as to why you see some of this, going on. And you will start to notice, I swear it's running in the family, and it is running in the family.
I mean, where I come from in Ireland, the north of Ireland, the amount of satanic stuff for Christians, it's endemic right through all the care home system, everything.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I had a friend that went over there for an archaeological program, and he noticed those things too, where he was going to school over there, noticed those same things in different structures that he would stay in. He noticed that each head of whatever he happened to be working on, each person, they were involved somehow, mixed with academia and also some satanic Kabbalist, arm of some.
We're all good Christians.
Yeah.
Wait, did you say good Crowleyans?
No, I said good Christians, young man. Can
Good
you not
Crowleyans.
understand what I'm talking here?
Right.
They're good Crowleyans.
If that's not what they're trying to deal with. So there are times, again, and I'm going to go back to the Cabal lines, the lines that were picked out long time ago to say, you're the heads of humanity. Believe me, those lines were manicured and those lines were altered. And it's gotten into their DNA structure, even their behavior patterns.
Yeah, they're inbred satanic poodles.
Right. So you have to think about this. Let's say, somewhere along the line, there was, this guy on the road, and for some reason he had a propensity for math and he was really good at it. Well, you get noticed. Guess what? We're going to put in your line to all be good in math, and then we're going to use you. So it's things like that. Like think of with a garden where you're trying to grow crops, but you want to alter them in a way that you want to use them or for them to be with you. You're going to stick with those lines, right? And the descendant lines, and you're going to manicure, and you're going to do, this is the things that have been happening. And so with the testing, with whatever. So they look for, of course, always are looking for what they would call the diamond in the rough, where it just so happens out of this lineage, wow, look at this person. And God forbid then what's going to happen to their lineage if they pick them up. But a lot of things run through families and what they're working on and the programs and the experimentations or whatever, they run through because you have to think of it almost as farming and trying to get things crops the way you want them. That's what happens.
I'm listening to everything that all of y'all are talking about this, and it just makes me think. Sometimes I wonder if my father sold us out. When my dad came over here from Palestine, evidently he was involved, and I understand my father was Elohim, and I don't say that to sound think that I'm special or he's special, but he was, and I think he was used in the projects and programs as well. I think he was using the CIA. I mean, the guy kept a pistol on him all the time, and just kind of lived his own life. I didn't know much about my dad. He'd show up when he, had, I guess, time or wanted to see the kids, but he was gone most of the time and involved in some things that I am still questioning. But I think because they were, from my understanding, taking firearms from what's called the military over there. It's not called military. It's something else. Not like a militia, but something else in Palestine, like a group of, like a
National Guard or whatever. No.
Yeah, and
kind of
they had stolen firearms, and my uncle was a firearm dealer, and somehow my dad got caught up in this and took the blame for my uncle, and they took him in the streets and cut his hair off, which is a satanic thing to humiliate you and so forth. And he was able to leave Palestine and come over to America. Right? You don't get to steal firearms from the military and then get sent to America just because, right? So I think there was something going on, because the night I went to go and question my aunt about how my dad got here and question about that story, and my sister said, she won't tell you anything. And she was right, but I still went. And that was the same night I saw a jinn underneath my chandelier, which Simon Parks confirmed was. And it followed me. They abducted me at a bus stop, hoping that I would share some information that my aunt said to me that she didn't tell me anything.
So you think your father cut a deal?
I definitely do.
And then were you born already or not?
No, I wasn't born.
Okay, just wondering. I mean,
I
it makes me wonder if you cut
my
a
father
deal.
came over here, and I believe my mother and father were specifically put together to have me sail
I
in
could see
freedom.
that.
Yep. And I was left at the hospital for 2 days. That's when they augmented me with AI. And Miles interviewed a gentleman. I forgot, what is his name, Miles? The guy that did Aida AI Gone Rogue. I had a memory of being sacrificed, and I had a memory of Tim Refat that Miles speaks about a lot. And I woke up, and the first thing I saw in my
somebody saying Jordan Shea or saying something about the cage.
No. I'm gonna tell. I'll tell you what. I don't. Can't. You just had him on. You had. Forget it. Don't worry about it. I don't want to make this all about that. But my point in sharing that whole thing, Duncan Davis.
Duncan Davis, yeah, Duncan Davis. Yeah.
He did Aida AI.
Otherwise known as the Grid Keeper.
Yes, and I woke up, and the first thing I saw in my YouTube feed was Aida AI Gone Rogue. Right after I had that memory, I had a memory of Tim Refat sodomizing a man, and then I tried to get away from him and went down in the ship, and I woke up. I don't
think Tim does that sort of thing. Women, yes, but not. I don't think so.
Okay, he is a practicing Satanist Luciferian. Don't think for a second, and I don't care.
You're talking about Tim,
huh?
Duncan is Celestial Paladin, and they have a grail there. Where
I'm not trying to talk poorly about anything, but you can't sit and say Lord Lucifer this, Lord Lucifer that, and not have participated in that kind of behavior. I'm sorry, Miles. So I know he's your friend, and I don't have anything against Tim Refat. I'm just saying he is a self-proclaimed Luciferian. He worships Lucifer, and he does.
He defeated Lucifer in a battle.
Did he?
Yes.
Well, I would love to.
He's taking down all the Jew gods, and all of that's on his YouTube channel or the Rumble channel.
Well, I'll have to look.
He's going through each one of them.
Yeah. Well, I just thought it was interesting.
Just list the names, and he's
energy with Aida. Remember when you asked that? Because it was that day that I woke up and saw Aida AI Gone Rogue, and I escaped them when they tried to sacrifice me.
He had done that a long time ago.
I know. Well, I'm still looking for answers, Miles.
Well, they're all there. If you want to go on his YouTube site, he's doing a whole lot with Taylor Swift.
Yeah, well,
disconnected. He's going through all the Taylor Swift black magic ritual videos, and all those videos are black magic in plain sight, being powered by the audience.
Mm.
Anyway,
I don't want you to. I don't want. I'm definitely not trying to offend you or upset you in any way by saying what I said. I don't have anything against Tim Refat. He's his own. He has the free will to behave and do the things that he does. But I don't believe him to be. I think that he is self-serving in many ways, and that's
he's doing his own thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And he's taken out the A-listers and the satanics in Hollywood and the Rothschilds and all that lot.
Okay. Well, I'll have to revisit because I haven't seen him for many years.
He took out quite a few Rothschilds, and that's part of all his legacy. He has been wronged, and he has a disagreement with the relevant families, and he's not too happy about it. But that's him.
Yeah. Anyway, so my point was saying that
did somebody said that the link with me and the lifting.net? I'm just on your site.
Mm-hmm.
The lifting.net.
Oh, have a look. Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Well, you got to have Chris on
it's in the questions.
Christopher Jacobs is pretty. Actually, you sat with me through their presentation at the conference, and we enjoyed their presentation. I remember, and I had said to you, you got to have Chris on sometimes.
Right.
He would be a great guest to have. Just saying.
Thank you for mentioning that.
You disappeared, Aida.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Blinked out. You're reducted there.
You're the best, Miles. I love you guys. I do. I think you're amazing. All of you guys, I'm so happy to be able to have these kinds of conversations, right?
It is a great joy to be able to talk about this sort of. It's not a joy to talk about it, but it's a subject
nice
to really
come together and have these kinds of conversations, and just, I don't expect everybody to agree with everything I say, and I don't agree with everything that's said. But guess what? Like what Joanna was saying, we can come together and have a common. I know that each one of us have a pure intent to really see things change for the better for all of us, for humanity. And that's lovely. And all of us have something to bring to the table with, I get fascinated by listening to Chris and Joanna and you and Brian. I learn things, but I know a few things too. And what I feel I know it. And
well, I really want to thank you guys, because it's learning a whole lot of different things. It's wonderful to meet different people and all that. And
Miles, we'll continue. We're going to continue doing this. Cosmic Chronicles and Worldly Affairs. We'll have different people on, and you'll be a part of that. And all of y'all, maybe we'll do a bigger one and have more people. But, the conference is 5-6 months away, not even February, March, April, May, June, July, 5 months away.
I've got my online one in 10 days' time, and I've got a talk on Thursday, and I haven't even written it yet.
Well, be sure to share the link with me so that I can share
pressure. No pressure.
Yeah, and I've even already started making products for the conference. I have a lot of Sasquatch Oregon pieces and.
So Brian, pull up here. Let me get it.
Okay.
Look at this, Brian. What do you think?
Show them the big one. Okay.
I suppose, Brian, you've got to buy a whole pile more new jackets and things.
Well, that's pretty freaking.
Well, that's what I'm wearing now. And oh wow. See, I have my bust here, but that's a way bigger one.
He's gotten some.
What on earth are these?
Bigger ones.
These are Oregonite Sasquatch busts, which help you to connect better with a Sasquatch, or for them to connect and visit you in your home if you so desire.
Do you like it, Miles? Do you like Sasquatch, Miles? I'll make sure I get one for you when we were at the conference.
In the days when I had hair and a beard, some people might mistake me as one. Especially after 18 pints of Guinness and a pack and a chili pizza.
Well, is there any announcements or anything, you guys? We've been running for now an hour and 46 minutes, and we surely can do another in March if you guys are interested, and maybe see if Sean and Yisa might want to join in. And Sean wasn't feeling well still, and their cable went out, so I kind of redirected, and I'm glad you guys decided to still come on. This was a fantastic discussion, and a lot of information was shared. And for those that are watching, please do subscribe, share this out, like it, go visit Miles Johnston on the bases. We have Brian. Brian has the Full Disclosure Now YouTube, and then Joanna and Christopher have the lifting. And they just started a new Facebook group, so you guys can look for it. And I didn't add everybody's contact information because this was like a quick put together for me. But I'll go back in and make sure just for future people. But go to Bases, subscribe. Miles, tell everybody about where they can find you, please.
Well, I'm on YouTube still. I'm the Bases Project Censored, just to let YouTube know that I disapprove of them. And then I'm Bases Restricted. And then I'm also Stepping Stones for Awareness. And I put all the Egyptian stuff that Sayyid Moses has come up with about how the artifacts in Egypt are describing the movement of the alignment of the planets, and when the whole crust moved 12,500 years ago, and that he's now back in Egypt. But that's that. And then I'm the Bases Project on Brighteon, Rumble, BitChute, and I think that's it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But we're now talking to the Norwegians, and we're hoping to have an international conference in Soon, as SON, in southern Norway. It's half an hour out of Oslo, on the Oslo Fjord, in September. So we're going to try and have a Norwegian thing. They've got some pretty heavy-duty people there who've woken up, but they're also one of the highest injected populations, like Ireland, very, very high level of injectees there.
I'm going to have to see about a trip there once you get dates.
So
Maybe that's where I'll meet you.
Oslo Airport is like it's way far north, so it's quite an easy hop to Oslo Gardermoen Airport at Oslo. They've got about 4 runways there. I think that's a forward base for. Anyway, that's another thing.
Well, thank you, Miles, for sharing your information. Everybody, go check Miles
in
out.
the summertime, Oslo, Norway's, you get great suntan. It's the jet stream, the Gulf Stream, all the way from Tampa, comes the whole way from Tampa, right across the Atlantic Ocean, straight to Soon in the Oslo Fjord, and it's going to be really warm there. Yeah.
Nice. So you fly into where and then go to Norway? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, I'm planning an international conference with some people in there. That's where my friend Anna, it's a year since she died. So it's sort of in respect to her. It was a very forward-thinking little town, little village, art and all that sort of stuff. So the idea is to hold a pretty heavy-duty conference there in September, early September.
Okay. And Joanna and Christopher, where can people find you if you don't mind sharing, please?
For one, the lifting.net, all the, I'm probably going to point this way because this is in reverse, but right here. Oh, I keep trying to point to the name on the screen, but it keeps going the other way. But anyway, okay. But with the lifting.net, there's links to all our other places where other social medias where we have it on Rumble, we have it on YouTube. We've set up a couple other social media accounts. Of course, we have our Facebook, the Facebook group we just started for lifting. We're also on Threads and on Blue Sky. I put an account over there too. So all of those links are on the lifting.net.
Threads, what's that?
It's an offshoot of Instagram, I found out, and we're on there as well. And we also have a sister site called gic.show. That's where we have all of our galactic historical material.
And remember, Microsoft are switching off Skype.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Skype. We don't use Skype anymore.
Exactly. It was so messed around with.
Mm-hmm. We couldn't use it anymore, so we just decided we tried to expand into other social media platforms, Facebook, and of course YouTube, and Rumble. Those three we use. We decided to check out the others like Threads and Blue Sky, and also Truth Social. We have a one on there too. So,
have you done any research as to the demographics of Facebook? Which platform is the one that you want to target for the disclosure audience?
It seems that it still seems a lot revolve around Facebook at the moment. A lot of people kind of hover around Facebook for the most part. But these newer platforms, also of course YouTube, but the one that's a good contender right now would be Rumble. That's an up and coming kind of contender to.
I noticed that BitChute has seemed to have had a big injection of capital. They're getting a higher quality. And remember, Rumble's out of Toronto, so that may not be a secure place.
Yeah, it might not be as secure. Yeah, you're kind of rolling the dice with all of them out there, but we're just trying to find where the people are congregating so we can get the information out.
We're going to be launching our own platform. We're launching our own platform,
Brian.
So we'll be gathering.
Please share with the audience, because we want Miles and Christopher Jacob, that we want them to be a part of that. So why don't you share a little bit about that?
Well, we're going to be doing a 7-day-a-week live streaming platform that's also going to integrate the community and give everyone a place to come and learn about whatever topics within the disclosure that they want to learn, using an AI engine that we're using all of our own materials to train, so that when you ask about chemtrails or the jabs, it's not going to say, well, criticism of the jabs are of a highly speculative nature. No, it'll just give you the real stuff, at least from our platform's understanding, right, in an uncensored, unlimited hangout way.
Borg. They're headed for Borg.
Right.
Yeah, that's what they want. That's what they want.
This is one of the things Refat talks about. With every time people stand at the war memorials and thinks about the dead, they're actually being streamed into being great. this is a very dangerous set of stuff.
It's like loose harvesting.
Yeah, like we always say, like the different obelisks, different memorials, the different historical sites have these transmissions coming through them. Yeah, we've seen it firsthand. We created revocations for this sort of thing to cancel some of these different spells out. But we saw it mainly in Washington, D.C., but we saw it on a lot of the historical sites going up the East Coast in the United States.
Right down to the design of the fluting and where water retains it's very technical.
Is it Freemasonic?
Anyway,
is that Freemasonic?
I have to go and see Bob Osborne.
Okay, please give him our best.
He's probably sitting on a table in Wetherspoons, ready to tell me all about the James Casbolt situation, and he's thirsting for a pint of Guinness.
Please let him know to let James know that he's got so much support from so many of us here in the United States, and we really, really hope to see him in a public way again at some point.
I'll make sure that gets passed.
Yeah, and that we truly love and support him, and we want to see things get better for him.
Yeah, well, I hope that all works out for everybody concerned.
Yes.
So until next time.
Yes, Miles.
I've been doing these things in the last couple of 4 hours. I've been working on this for Jesus God. It was daylight when I started. It's daylight. So look it up there. It's open. You can't see it.
All right, everyone. Solar be out.
No, Brian, I need to talk to you before we hang up. But
okay, all right.
Okay, Miles. Thank you. Miles, thank you for coming on.
Cheerio. Blessing. Blessing
you
all.
I'll send you March's date for next month's show, just so you know.
Good.
Okay, thank you, sir. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, yeah, look at the man. Look at the man.
I'm gonna tip
Brian got a new suit for every day at the conference. He's ready to roll.
Yeah.
I love it.
Cheers, Miles. Cheers to Bob Osborne and to James
You
Casbolt.
can't make this up, you people.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, this was a fantastic show. It's been great. We had a lot of information we went over. Thank you, guys. Yeah. So, guys, make sure that you share this out and show your support to both Joanna and Joanna and Christopher. I don't know why I said Michael. I guess I was thinking of Michael Cas or Mike James.
Joanna's last name.
Where my brain is. Anyways, and Brian. So we have the Full Disclosure Now conference coming up on the 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th of July. We invite everybody is welcome. If you're interested in disclosure or, any of the topics that you heard tonight, and there's going to be so many more, Christopher and Joanna are going to be presenting. They're also doing the opening ceremony. So if you get your ticket, try to get it for Monday so you can be there, fly out Monday and get there and get yourself ready to begin the conference. And we're staying until the following Monday because we have our sister conference, or not conference, but sister event. My brain is really on
Day of Being 5.0 Beach Weekend for free at nearby Indian Shores.
Yes, and I've been there this will be my 4th out of the 5 that they've had, and I can tell you it is the best time. There's so many amazing people you'll meet. We have just a great time on the beach. Definitely consider staying a little bit longer. Get your tickets because the price is going to be going up in the next month or so. So we still have an early bird ticket offer. Brian has kept the tickets at $444. In the next month or two, they're going to go up to $488. So get them while they're still at $444, and you can save yourself a little money. And there's tons of, if you feel that you can't stay at we want you at the Serrata Resort, but if you can't, there are other places that you could share houses and come and join us, like the Airbnbs.
We have a Telegram group where people are coordinating for that.
There you go.
And also we're linking people up with roommates because the Serrata Beach Resort, we've got the conference discount, and each room has 2 queen-sized beds. So a lot of people, they're linking up and they're cutting their room stay in half. You really want to go economic. We can link you up with 2 people, and there'll be a 3 to a room, and you can pay for a rollaway bed. And now you're pretty much splitting it 3 ways to stay at an awesome beach resort right there on St. Pete Beach, which I personally recommend that if you can stay at the resort and attend our conference, it adds that much more.
Yeah, and if you get 3 people in a room, you're talking $500 each. It's less than $100 a night for your stay at the Serrata Beach Resort.
For a week at St. Pete Beach.
Exactly.
You're doing pretty well.
It's not an unreasonable or entirely too expensive that you can't work it out. Is my point.
Right.
So yep. All right. Well, we're gonna end this show, and I'll be sure to get everybody's stuff at some point, sometime today. I want to go to the gym. I do need to talk to you, Brian, just for a few minutes. I guess we could do that afterwards. Christopher and Joanna, is there anything else you want to share before we end the live?
No. All I'll say is, we're staying at the Serrata. We're getting a room again this time. We like that. We're going to actually come early, like we said, doing the opening ceremony. But we're also coming in early to be able to do time on the beach too. So
exciting. We're gonna have an amazing time. It's gonna be a lot of fun for sure. Last year was fantastic, and this year is just going to be even better. It's going to continue to grow, and we are going to be able to co-create exactly what we were talking about earlier, Joanna, and being able to get people to, small pockets, everybody just doing their part, staying in their lane, staying focused on what you need to do for yourself so that you can have something to offer that's that could be beneficial for everybody. So, but it's definitely, I tell people all the time, we never arrive. It's an inside job. And, but we can get to a place where joy and unity can be experienced. And by self-actualizing and choosing it, that's what I say, right? Every day I wake up and I say, today's going to be an amazing day. And I will tell you, I definitely have gone through a shift in the past couple months, big time. Like a lot of things have changed for me, and it feels really good. Now I'm on this kick to get in the gym, and I get sidetracked. So I need to go and get in the gym. But you guys, everybody have a fantastic evening. Please subscribe, share, like, and I will post for next month the Cosmic Chronicles and Worldly Affairs, and we'll have some different guests and mix it up a bit. But thank you for showing up.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.